All right. Good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. Good afternoon also to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. I said wherever you're watching from, or maybe it is also morning. If you had been taking a look of our prior posts or our prior promo, you would see that we do have, a special show on tap for you guys, a nice exclusive for you all for the independent film that you see right here to your left, to my right, Hollywood.Con. And we actually have the filmmaker of this film. So let me, give a quick, introduction to, our guest. Her work has received critical acclaim, and she's been, seen in quite, a number of films that, that you have, come to know and enjoy, over the years. Let's see, going down the line, we have Blue Crush, The Patriot, Along Came a Spider. She's also been seen on the small screen, whether it's on Dawson's Creek, on House MD, Ghost Whisperer, Touched by an Angel, Walker, Texas Ranger. The list goes on and on and on. So without further ado, I want to introduce the filmmaker. This film acts as her, feature directorial debut. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Mika Boorem. Give me 1 second while I bring her on. Hey, Mika, how's it going?
Hey, it's going great. Thanks so much for having me on. This is awesome.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, Mika, how are you doing? So much stuff is, happening within the last, or say has been happening in the last couple of weeks, with what's going on in our world, and how we are starting to finally see the wheels turn back to getting, to normal, so to speak. So how are you been doing?
I'm doing well. What an interesting time. Like, this is something definitely, that we'll remember for all of our lives. So, it's a landmark moment. And it feels good that, hopefully the pandemic stuff is coming to an end now. So I've been really fortunate where I've been able to work on some projects through the pandemic. So that's been cool. But also like a very, very different experience, than what it would be like to be on set in normal times.
Definitely. So just to hit the ground running, can you tell me, how the, the film that we're seeing here, to those that are watching to the left, how did the inspiration for Hollywood.Con come about?
So Hollywood.Con was, I was trying to figure out. So I've been acting since I was very young, since I was 7. And I wanted to move over into directing. And so I wanted to make a really fun, independent feature that people could just enjoy and connect with, like wacky characters. And I wanted to do something with an ensemble cast. So there's a huge plethora of characters in this, and they're extreme characters. They're all weird. They're all fun, goofy. They're just far out, and so that was an important element to me. But the specific storyline for Hollywood.Con, it's about these mover and shakers in Hollywood, and they're trying to make the next big Mayan movie, and so. I wanted to I combined the Hollywood background, having like grown up on sets and met a lot of interesting characters. I combined that with the mystique and of the Mayan culture, and with the pyramids and all of that. And so actually the way that the Mayan part of it came together was, my dad is a gemologist, and so I went on a trip with him to Guatemala, where we went and we bought jade. And so when I went with him, it was actually like during the Tucson Gem and Mineral Show, which is one of the biggest ones in the world. And no one at the show could really like get jade. They were looking for the specific Guatemala jade. So I went with my dad to Guatemala, and we looked everywhere, and we found this place that was like way off the beaten path. and this group of people had jade to sell, but the jade that they had to sell was from Mayan tombs. And
Mm.
so, yeah, it was from Mayan tombs. And so they brought it up because the Mayans are so interesting. One of the things that they do a lot of times when they bury the dead is they put a piece of jade in the mouth so that the soul passes through that, and then they either take it to the afterlife or it allows them to go to the afterlife. I'm not sure which specifically, but so they have this, they're buried with this piece of jade. And so these people were like, would you like to buy this? And we were like, no, no, we don't want to buy the cursed jade from the Mayan tomb.
Right.
We ended up buying other jade, which we brought back to the Tucson Gem Mineral Show. We actually brought back 300 pounds, which was like crazy. It was really fun.
Oh, wow.
But that inspired the cursed Mayan jade that comes up within the film too.
Gotcha. And to speak further to that, just that idea of what you were commenting before about the cast and assembling the group of actors that you had, the ensemble that you had. Can you talk a bit about how that came together? Because I mean, you have some pretty awesome people in the film.
Yeah, we've got a wild cast. So all of the actors in it are friends of mine that I've worked with in the past in other movies. So I basically, when I started putting this together, it was so important for me to, as my directorial debut, I was like, I need good actors. Like, I really want good actors. And I want I want the collaboration experience of developing the characters and doing the arcs and all that kind of stuff with them. So I went out to my friends and I was like, all right, I got this independent film. I need you to get involved. What would be a really fun character that you would get to play that's against typecast that would just be like an enjoyable, like, good time, fun experience? So we did that. So like Tom Arnold's in it. Tom Arnold plays head of a drug cartel in Mexico. He's El Jade, which is awesome. And Tom I've known forever. Tom played my dad on a TV show called The Tom Show on Warner Brothers when I was like 10 years old for a couple of years. So so cool of him like to jump in and be supportive on this. And we've got like Devin Rattray, which Devin Rattray has been around forever. He was Buzz in Home Alone with the tarantula, and he's
Of
also
course.
like a mosaic. Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
He's been in so much though. I love that role, like the tarantula and Woof, Buzz's girlfriend.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's like a mosaic with Sharon Stone, and he's in Masterminds and The Tick and Russian Dolls, and like his resume just goes on and on. And so for him, he plays Andy Slimek, and so he's this, hotshot producer who's just like making deals. And so that was a fun, different role, because a lot of times he plays more like guy next door, very like wholesome, nice. So this one, he's just like far out. My buddy Cody Cash is in this. He was on Desperate Housewives for years, and he always plays psycho killer mafiosa characters. And so for that one, we were like, well, what would be fun for you? And he's like, I want to have fun. Like, I never get to have fun. So he dances and he sings, and he's Marvin Lovejoy, the networking secretary who's going to network his way to the top. We have Paige Howard in this. Paige Howard was in Adventureland, and she's like, very, very sweet. She plays a lot of sweet roles. She's also got on a new Nickelodeon show, The Astronauts, right now. But so for this one, she plays like, just like crazy, like woman power, top of the world, which she actually like is on top of the world in this, in Mount Everest, producing movies, like badass producer girl, Veronica Lake. So, we got this great cast together. Billy Bob Thornton does a cameo with his band, the Box Masters.
Yeah, yeah. That was something that I did see. I was like, is that Billy Bob Thornton? But yeah, no,
Yeah.
that was a cool surprise.
And they gave us a few songs too, which is so fun. That Glendale song, like, cracks me up. It cracks me up. I remember when I first heard that, and I was just like, what? This is like so wild, especially like, if you've ever spent time in California and spent time in Glendale, like
Yes.
all of that is so on point. It's so
Yeah.
on point.
And I was going to say that's actually a great segue in talking about what what the film, in a very tongue-in-cheek way, comments like on elements that you come across in the industry, and different experiences that may arise. If you're in the industry long enough, whether it's uh, having saboteurs like left and right, whether it's in your own circle, whether they're not in your circle, and they have their own agenda. So can you speak to that, and if maybe with some of these characters, even though you may not want to reveal who it may be exactly, I'm assuming they, for you, have been inspired by certain people that you've come across.
Oh my goodness, yes. Yes, every bit of the Hollywood section of it is things or people, things that I've heard or things I've been directly exposed to, or yes, my own personal experiences or friends' stories that I've heard. Like, some of the dialogue was so much fun to write. With like the hustling, the moving, the shaking. Also, I love to. It was fun to throw in there, like the name dropping stuff, where they're like, "Oh, so and so's nephew." Yeah, like, well, but he knows him, and it's through him and him. Don't say anything, but um, so some of that's fun. There was yeah. I I'd like to be more specific on some of it, but I can't reveal too much.
Well, I will
Um,
ask you off stage because I do have based on what I saw, I have a hint on who one of them were. But again, I will wait off
oh, fun.
stage to ask if that's who indeed it's supposed to be. But no, I just found that element, of it very fascinating because you come, as I said, if you've been around a while and had an opportunity to do a few projects, you come across a lot of these characters or come across a lot of these experiences that are highlighted in the film. So I really got a kick out of it where I was like, oh yeah, I've seen that happen. Oh yeah, like yeah, that's definitely a thing. So it was really interesting to see. Um, but with that being said, having can you talk a bit about, as I said, I was commenting on it before, this being, your feature directorial debut. Um, how was that experience that first go around? And do you feel that everything in terms of the style that, because as you are trying different disciplines, you're trying to still find your way in terms of what your style is going to be. Is it going to be more technical? Is it going to be and is it going to be more hands-on with the actors? Are you going to let the actors go and kind of do their own thing and find their way? um, as someone who has for a great deal of your career been in front of the camera, um, at least from my experience, I've found that many filmmakers that have been in front of the camera, um, I've had terrific experiences with because they have an understanding and appreciation of what's happening in doing the character. And it's not to say that someone who doesn't have that background, they don't have appreciation, but at least they have a different insight, I guess is a better word, of what an actor may be going through, and can has a better way of guiding or speaking that language. So can you talk to that in directing your first feature with this?
I think, as you just spoke to, I think, one of the things about knowing what an actor is going through, I think that's very, when you have the insight of, because different actors obviously operate in different ways, but for the most part, I think that as a director, part of your job is to sort of figure out if there's someone who, because some actors need to be put into more of like a bubble, so they get into their space and then they want to stay in their space and in their headspace. And so if you realize you're working with an actor like that, it's important to help kind of protect that on set. So that way, they're not getting, pulled off into all these different directions, and they can sort of sit there and, just stay in the moment, stay in their character in the scene, or stay with the other actors and practice lines. And so that aspect of it, I think, having the experience of an actor and just understanding that sort of space, and like being able to operate in that space and pull emotions, for, a 10-hour day, 12-hour day, 14-hour day. I think that probably helps with, just like being able to support the actors in that regard. But in terms of like for directing, I was really fortunate with this one that I had the time um, to work with the actors on, the storyline, the character arc, and like develop with the actors. So, which I know is not always a possibility. But what's great with that is I feel like then on the day, you've done all the prep work or most of the prep work with the actors. And so you guys are completely on the same page. And then it's just maybe like a reference or a reminder of like, oh, this is like where you are within, the story arc, or these are like, oh, like, the next big beat for the character is going to be this, and this is the scene before that. So let's just make sure that we're setting up that next beat that's going to come through. And I mean, my big thing that I love though, and this is across the board, is I love that if somebody does something well and they're awesome at it, like I let them do it. Like, I let them do it. I'm all about collaboration and like, just letting it, you hopefully get to work with people that like you think are amazing and that you really respect. And, you guys talk about getting on the same page and talk about, what the film's about, or talk about theory or whatever. And then let them run with it. Cause that's why you pick them, because you respect them,
For
so.
sure, for sure. And and with this being, as I say, your feature directorial debut, you know how it goes. It's a constant, running machine, so to speak. Of now that you have this under your belt, what's next? What are you doing? So I know you were saying that you had an opportunity to develop, some projects, or there were some that were, still being, put together. So are you able to comment on what some of those are, or is it still too early to say, what they are?
Yeah, I've got lots of fun stuff going. So, I what was fun. So during the pandemic, I was able to shoot a music video, which was fun. And so that was with this artist Travis Tidwell, who's awesome, and we got it up on CMT, which is country music television, which was so cool. And that was with Dolly Parton's management, and so that was really cool. And then I've got more music video work coming up, and then I've got a behind the scenes music thing, which will be really fun, that I'm looking into. The pandemic has kind of moved everything to the side, but then there's a educational children's series, which will
Okay.
be So there's an educational children's series, and then there's this other film um, that's just wonderful, and it's a big historical piece, and the pandemic has really moved the scheduling around for. But it takes place in the 1920s, and it's about a young boy, and it's a real story. And he jumps trains, and he travels across the U.S. And he each time he rides the train and arrives in a new town or city, he has these small vignette like coming of age stories that are really beautiful. And so he goes through a series of those until at the end he's a completely different person, and he's a full man. It's a beautiful story though. It's, I mean, just I love history, and I love projects that can kind of touch on that, but they're a lot harder to make. All of my projects are so ambitious. It was funny for Hollywood.Con because I was like, halfway through, I was like, oh my gosh, like, whose idea for like my directorial review, like, whose idea was it to film in Mexico, Guatemala, Texas, Arizona, California, like, throw in the camel, throw in the wildebeest. Like, I'm like, what? Like,
And
I
I
was
was gonna
like,
say, in all those locales that you were speaking of, I mean, most people outside, just watching the film outside of there, like, oh wow, that's cool. They shot there. Oh, wow, this place, they were able to have this place, resemble this place. But understanding, with me understanding of what goes on behind the scenes, and how involved that is in terms of logistics and permits and all these other things that people kind of, take for granted and don't really appreciate. How did that even come together of being able to shoot in all of those places?
It was an ambitious task. It was like, so a lot of locations we were able to do in Texas. We did part of like the airplane stuff and the airplane crashing stuff. That's all on a ranch in Texas. Part of the Mexico stuff we did on that ranch too. But I just thought like I love escape, like when you hit like escapism in a film, and you can just sort of watch something and it's goofy and like let go. And so I really wanted these like beautiful escapes. I was like, it's so nice. Like you're watching something, you're in an intense story, and then you get to break away for a moment, and you're in these like Yuma sand dunes that go on forever. I'm like, it's just like kind of nice, visually relaxing. 110 to film in. All of the equipment overheats. Need a lot of water. So some of that stuff, I'm like, oh, what'd you do? But I think that having all those locations brings a lot to the table itself, especially like the stuff in Latin America. Like Latin America, you can't fake that. Like if you want the genuine, authentic, character and the colors and all of that, like you got to go for that. You can't do that in a soundstage.
Sure.
And so I like that. I like that world too, like in the juxtaposition of that with Hollywood, because I think that they're both equally as like flavorful and colorful, but also like very different. So that'd be fun. Take everyone on a journey, and
For
that's what's
sure.
cool. Like with the pandemic stuff too. It's like, okay, I think it's a good time for the film because the film's just like goofy fun with a bunch of weird characters. There's nothing political in it. There's nothing religious in it. There's nothing where anyone like gets killed. Like it's just, hopefully you get to relax and just sit into it, with the whole family, grandma, the kids.
Definitely. Well, Mira, or say Mika, I'm sorry, Mika.
You can call me whatever you want. Like I said, growing up, people always got it mixed up. They were like,
Oh
Micah,
my gosh, Mika.
Mieka.
No, there's another that it must be a brain fart of happening earlier today. But Mika, thank you so much for coming on here and talking about Hollywood.Con. Can you tell folks before I let you go where they can find you?
Ooh, yes, you can find me on all social media under my name, which is just, there we go, Mika, and then Boorem. Come find me. I'd love to say hello. And let me know, watch the movie, enjoy the movie. Let me know what you think about it. And the movie's on Amazon.
Well, there you guys go. Absolutely.
It's on Amazon.
Again, I want to thank Mika Boorem of Hollywood.Con. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about your feature directorial debut. I'm your host, Brandon Choi, guys. As always, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. Thanks so much for joining us for this episode. Be safe out there, and I'll see you soon. Bye.
Cool.